Australia was built on a promise that lay hidden beneath its soil. Gold, silver, copper, coal, asbestos, iron, uranium. These were the lures that drew people across vast and unforgiving landscapes for more than 200 years. Families packed their belongings into wagons, saddlebags, and later the backs of Holdens, chasing rumors of wealth into country so harsh that even the trees appeared to be retreating. Towns rose from corrugated iron and sheer ambition. They built pubs, post offices, schools, and businesses. They raised children, buried loved ones, and planned for permanence. Then the resource ran dry, the railway shifted, the rain failed, or the ground itself became toxic. And when that happened, people left, often never to return. So subscribe, and let's begin. Number 10. Broad Arrow. The Western Australian pub town where 15,000 people once drank beer and mined gold before vanishing into the desert. Broad Arrow lies about 40 kilometers north of Kalgoorlie in the Goldfields region of Western Australia. Today, it consists of a single structure, the Broad Arrow Tavern, built in 1896. It still operates, at least in the sense that you can walk in and order a beer. Everything else has disappeared. At its peak during the 1890s gold rush, Broad Arrow supported 15,000 residents. 8 hotels, 3 churches, a school, shops, businesses, and even its own municipal council filled the flat red landscape. The local Wankatha people, who had known the district as Karawa for thousands of years before miners arrived, and who remained long after they departed, witnessed this rapid transformation. But gold rush towns survive only as long as their deposits do, and those deposits are finite. By the early 1900s, easily accessible or had been exhausted. Larger, deeper, and more capital-intensive operations consolidated around Kalgoorlie and Boulder, where the Super Pit would become one of the world's largest open-cut gold mines. Broad Arrow lacked the geological promise to justify such investment. Its population drifted south. Hotels shut down, shops boarded up, and families dismantled their corrugated iron homes, physically carrying them toward new opportunities. By the 1920s, Broad Arrow had effectively ceased functioning as a town. The tavern endured because it stood along a road still traveled, and because Australians will apparently sustain a pub long after every other element of civilization has collapsed around it. Today, the Broad Arrow Tavern is a tourist stop, its walls layered with signatures, stickers, and business cards from visitors who make the short drive from Kalgoorlie. The irony is unmistakable. A community once the size of a small city reduced to a single drinking establishment and a solitary water tower rising from scrubland that stretches endlessly to the horizon. Depending on your perspective, it is either profoundly depressing or perfectly Australian. Number 9. Linda. The Tasmanian brawl town where a change in mine ownership sent the population packing. Linda sits in the Linda Valley along the Lyell Highway in western Tasmania. To say it sits, there is generous. Linda barely exists. The only substantial structure still standing is the crumbling concrete shell of the Royal Hotel. Its windows are empty voids, its walls scrawled with graffiti. A community cafe opened beside it in 2021 in an effort to revive the place, but by 2025 it too had closed. The site had been purchased in 2020 with plans to restore the Royal into a boutique hotel, yet those ambitions came to nothing. Linda remains what it has been for over a century, a ruin. The town flourished in the late 19th century around the North Mount Lyell copper mine, one of the operations that powered Tasmania's west coast during its industrial peak. It developed a reputation for heavy drinking and serious brawls, the kind of atmosphere that emerges in isolated mining towns where men vastly outnumber women and entertainment is scarce. Linda also served as the terminus of the North Mount Lyell Railway, giving it importance beyond its modest size. In 1903, the North Mount Lyell Mining Company was absorbed by the Mount Lyell Mining and Railway Company. The new owners centralized operations in nearby Queenstown and saw no need to maintain Linda's infrastructure. The shift was immediate and devastating. Without the mine, there was no railway. Without the railway, no commerce. Without commerce, no people. Buildings closed one after another, and by the mid-20th century, Linda had become a ghost town. The Royal Hotel, the final holdout, was abandoned in the 1950s. Today, Visitors can peer through its glassless windows and see what birds and weather have done to the interior. Dense, temperate rainforest presses in from all sides, the vivid green foliage contrasting sharply with the decaying gray concrete. In a single industry town, the collapse of that industry is not merely a downturn, it is extinction. Number 8. Kiandra, the birthplace of Australian skiing that burned to the ground and was never rebuilt. Kiandra stands in the snowy mountains of New South Wales at roughly 1,400 meters above sea level. For over a century, it held the distinction of being Australia's highest town. During the 1861 gold rush, Scandinavian and Chinese miners attached wooden planks to their boots to move across snow-covered slopes, inadvertently introducing skiing to Australia. The Kiandra Snowshoe Club, founded that same year, is widely regarded as the first ski club established outside Scandinavia. Originally settled in 1839, Kiandra's population surged to about 10,000 during the 1860s gold boom. Hotels, stores, a courthouse, and a post office signaled confidence and permanence. But the easily mined alluvial gold quickly dwindled. Severe winters, with snow blanketing the ground for months and temperatures plunging far below freezing, made sustained mining operations difficult and costly. By the 1870s, the population had begun to decline. A brief revival came when Kiandra reinvented itself as a ski destination. Chalets were constructed, a ski rope tow installed, and in the 1950s Australia's first T-bar ski lift was built there. Yet larger, better-funded resorts at Thredbo and Perisher drew visitors away. Kiandra could not compete with purpose-built tourism infrastructure. In 1974, the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service assumed control of the area. Most buildings were demolished, and the remaining few were heritage listed. Then the catastrophic Black Summer bushfires of January 2020 swept through, severely damaging what little remained. Despite restoration efforts during the preceding decade, the fires destroyed much of the surviving heritage. Today, Kiandra is closed to entry, an ash-covered relic atop a mountain no one inhabits. Number 7. Joadja, the Scottish kerosene shale town reclaimed by forest after its resource ran out. Located south of Mittagong in the southern highlands of New South Wales, Joadja was founded in 1870 as a shale oil mining settlement. The New South Wales Shale and Oil Company extracted kerosene from local deposits, recruiting predominantly Scottish miners to staff the operation. At its height, about 1,200 residents lived there. For its first decade, goods traveled in and out by bullock teams before a railway improved access. Isolated from broader colonial society, Joadja developed a distinct social and cultural character. But the shale deposit was finite. By the early 1900s, it was depleted. Meanwhile, crude oil production worldwide had made kerosene cheaper and more accessible. The mine closed, the town was sold for orchard use, and by 1911 the last residents had left. Today, the ruins are remarkably atmospheric. Brick retorts, iron machinery, and stone walls rise from dense bushland. The nearby Joadja distillery offers guided tours that combine heritage exploration with whiskey tasting. Retort ovens, a blacksmith's workshop, mining equipment, and workers' cottages scatter the forest. An overgrown cemetery, maintained by volunteers, bears Scottish names and the stories of ordinary lives shaped by hard labor and early death. Joadja feels less haunted by spirits than by the quiet weight of history. Number 6. Gwalia, the gold town where 1,200 people departed within 3 weeks. Gwalia, 233 kilometers north of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia's Great Victoria Desert, experienced one of the sharpest population collapses in Australian history. On December 28, 1963, the final whistle blew at the Sons of Gwalia gold mine. 250 men lost their jobs. Within 3 weeks, the town's population plummeted from 1,200 to just 40. Families left meals half-finished, eggs in chicken coops, and boarded trains sent from Kalgoorlie to carry them away. The mine had opened in 1897 under the management of a 23-year-old American engineer named Herbert Hoover, later the 31st President of the United States. Hoover traveled by ship, train, and camel to reach the site. He extended working hours, introduced contract labor, and recruited Italian workers, believing them less unionized than Australians. The mine grew into one of Western Australia's largest and deepest, reaching 1,080 meters underground. At its height, nearly 900 men worked there. The town boasted a cooperative store, butcher shop with piggery and abattoir, boarding houses, a picture theater, churches, a school, Western Australia's first government-owned hotel, and the Goldfields' first public swimming pool. Italian, Croatian, Greek, and Yugoslav migrants created a cosmopolitan desert community. A 1921 fire destroyed half the mine, and though it reopened in 1923, the town never fully recovered. By the late 1950s, businesses had shuttered and the mine operated at a loss. Its 1963 closure was final. Restoration efforts beginning in the 1970s preserved Gwalia's miners' cottages and Hoover House, now a luxury bed and breakfast. Visitors can walk through homes lined with old newspapers and original furnishings. The Shire of Leonora received a $3.3 million Heritage Award for preservation. Gwalia stands as one of Australia's best-preserved ghost towns, and one of its most haunting. Number 5. Silverton. The Mad Max town that refused to die. Located 26 kilometers northwest of Broken Hill in far western New South Wales, Silverton's permanent population stood at 48 in the 2021 census. Once home to 3,000 people during the 1880s silver boom, it had a municipal council, hospital, stock exchange, tramway, breweries, churches, and multiple hotels. Its decline began not because silver vanished, but because richer deposits were found 26 kilometers away at Broken Hill. By 1899, most residents had relocated, often dismantling their homes to move them. By 1901, only 286 remained. Silverton survived as an artist's enclave and tourist destination, bolstered by its use in over 140 films and commercials, most famously Mad Max 2 in 1981. The Mundi Lookout, with its endless desert plain, became iconic. Around 120,000 visitors arrive annually between March and November. With art galleries, the Mad Max Museum, Daydream Mine tours, wandering donkeys, and 402 graves in its cemetery, Silverton earns a living from its own past. Number 4. Cook. The Nullarbor Railway town reduced to a refueling stop. Established in 1917 along the Trans-Australian Railway and named after Sir Joseph Cook, it once housed over 200 residents. It had a hospital, school, swimming pool, golf course, and 600 gum trees planted in 1982. Technological change sealed its fate. Diesel locomotives required fewer stops, improved track materials reduced maintenance crews, and privatization in 1997 stripped Cook to its essentials. The population dwindled to 4 railway employees. Today, the Indian Pacific train stops for 30 minutes, allowing passengers to wander the eerie remains. Cook's economy now consists of postcards and fridge magnets sold to visitors who spend less than an hour in a town that once thrived. Number 3. Fina. The wheat town built on optimism beyond Goyder's line. About 600 kilometers north of Adelaide, settlers in 1878 believed wheat could flourish despite minimal rainfall averaging just 165 millimeters annually. For a few unusually wet years, it did. By the 1890s, Fina had 600 residents, 2 hotels, an underground bakery, bank, breweries, general store, post office, church, blacksmiths, school, and brothel. Then drought returned. Dust storms buried fences and filled rooms with sand. The railway shifted, mines closed, and services withdrew. By the early 1980s, the last residents left. In 2008, the Fina Restoration Group began annual 8-week working bees. Volunteers restored buildings, bake bread in the original ovens, and host a cricket match tradition dating to 1983. For 8 weeks each winter, Fina lives again. Number 2. Nunes. An oil shale town in the Blue Mountains that collapsed within decades. Founded in 1906 by the Commonwealth Oil Corporation and named after Sir George Nunes, it housed about 1,000 people. Railway lines, cottages, hospital, and industrial works filled the Woolgan Valley. But shale oil could not compete with cheap imported petroleum. The operation closed in 1932. The railway was dismantled, and the forest reclaimed the site. Today, brick retorts stand like Roman ruins amid bushland. Wildlife inhabits the remains. Nature has accepted the surrender. Number 1. Wittenoom. The town erased from maps because the air can kill. Located in Western Australia's Pilbara, Wittenoom was built around blue asbestos mining beginning in 1943. Between 1943 and 1966, 161,000 tons were extracted. The 1961 census recorded 881 residents. Warnings from Dr. Eric Saint about lethal dust levels were ignored. Children played in asbestos tailings used on roads and schoolyards. The mine closed in 1966 for financial reasons, but mesothelioma, with a 20 to 60-year latency, continued claiming lives. More than 2,000 former residents have died. The real number is likely higher. The town was degazetted in 2007 and legally closed in 2022. The last resident left in 2023. By 2025, all structures were demolished. Yet contamination remains across 46,840 hectares. The blue asbestos fibers persist in soil, air, and water. Wittenoom is not merely a ghost town. It is a crime scene, a place where profit outweighed human life. Unlike Broad Arrow, Fina, Cook, Silverton, Joadja, or Nunes, which succumbed to economics or nature, Wittenoom was destroyed by deliberate decisions. Hit subscribe, or forget everything you just read and return to the myth of beaches and barbecues. These stories matter. These places deserve remembrance, and some lessons should never need repeating.